I'm trying out something a little different with the CRT behind me here, with my new setup that has me looking like I'm in some kind of real zany museum. So I've got a Majora's Mask walkthrough playing behind me. Also, that CRT, it's a JVC, it's the exact TV I used to play games on growing up, which is why I got it. There's a whole reason I went on the scavenger hunt to try and find it, like I was looking for Dragon Balls. Anyway, I'm going to be talking about Majora's Mask today, which is why that's playing behind me. Many of you may have been recommended this video recently, but the YouTube algorithm went absolute insano style and showed me a masterpiece of a video. I'm going to put a link to it in the description. I highly recommend all of you go check out the full video. It is so well done, but I just have to gush and grannies over it because I was so drawn into this and I just want to talk about it. It's so fucking good.
Everybody loves a good underdog story. People often find themselves inspired by narratives where an unlikely participant rises up against all odds and triumphs in the face of adversity. Usually, though, the underdog isn't a literal dog, but I can think of few competitors who have tried and failed more times than the blue dog in The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask.
I can actually think of quite a few competitors that have tried and failed for longer than Blue Dog. 25 years? That's like a blink in time for organizations like the New York Jets, who haven't won a Super Bowl in 5 decades, or the Philadelphia 76ers that haven't won a championship in like 4 decades, like 41 years or something. So when you really stop to think about it and put it in perspective, Blue Dog did an extraordinary job squeaking out the big W after only 25 years in the league. So this is a video from a channel called Vidya James, and it is a banger. It slaps. This is the kind of content I love watching, where it's just like this really obscure thing that no one would ever even really think about, in a big video essay breaking down what makes it so interesting. This is for Majora's Mask, an iconic, beloved classic that's near and dear to my boners. I even have a Majora's Mask up here in my display. And this is a game that's been out for a long time. It came out in the late 90s. It was released in 2000. Well, that's not the late 90s at all now, is it? That's 2000. That's fucking Y2K right there. Point is, this game has been out for a long time. It's older than the dentures in your Meemaw's pie hole. And even though this game has been out for so long and is still actively played to this day with things like speedruns, there is something that has just happened that has only happened once in the entire history of this game. And it just happened for the first time. And that's what this video essay goes over. It's Blue Dog winning a race.
Among the many side quests in the game is a racetrack at the back of Romani Ranch, where the player can select one of 14 dogs to bet on in a race. You see, Nintendo coded in a distinct speed stat for each dog color, creating a clearly defined tier list that tells us which dogs are better and which are not so great.
When betting on the dogs, you use the Mask of Truth to figure out what dog has what status. So like if a dog's in good condition, that's likely going to be the one that stands the best chance of winning, and dogs will have a variety of different things that are neutral, bad, or good. And you usually will bet on the one that's good, and usually the dog that's winning is the gold dog. That little bastard is the Michael Jordan of that racetrack. You can't stop him, you can only hope to contain him, and even then, if you broke all 4 of its legs, it would probably still find a way to win by just fucking army crawling and wiggling its way to the finish line. It is just that much better than the rest. And at the very bottom is Blue Dog.
If we take a look at the speed values embedded in the code, we can see that each dog color is assigned a pair of numbers. For the sake of brevity, we can mostly ignore the first number. The important number there is the second one in each pair, which represents the speed value of each dog for the last 3 quarters of the race. The gold dog, especially if given the good condition, is almost guaranteed to win the race, while the blue dog, with its minimal speed value compared to the other dogs, well...
Blue Dog's looking like me out there doing the presidential fitness test. So Blue Dog is far and away the worst possible competitor here. It's not even close. And in 25 years of thousands upon thousands of races, there has never been a recorded case of Blue Dog winning.
Over the 25 years since the game's original release, nobody has ever seen Blue Dog come even close to winning the race, with essentially everyone in the community claiming it was outright impossible. Is it truly impossible, or have we just not tried hard enough?
Everyone thought the 4-minute mile was impossible until the feat was accomplished. It's always one of those things where there's nothing truly impossible. I could hit a growth spurt in my 30s here and make it to 6 feet. You don't know for sure. And that is the case with Blue Dog.
Over the last few years, Majora's Mask speedrunners became aware of an extremely rare glitch where a dog can mysteriously win the race around halfway through the track. The source of the glitch is due to a math error in the game's code, where the game performs a check to see if any of the dogs are in the finish line region. The way the game determines the finish line region is by looking at 3 separate regions defined by the differently colored shading shown here.
This right here, this is my galaxy gas. I huff that shit in. And it just feels so good. I'm like a gooner with Belle Delphine's bathwater when these video essays get to the point where they start showing graphs and data. You know, well, in order to figure out why Blue Dog couldn't win, we of course had to consult Book 12 of Homer's The Iliad. Like, it's amazing! Like, this is better than heroin.
If any dog is in all 3 regions at once, the game deems it on the finish line and having completed the race. Every frame, the dog will move along the track by having its coordinates shifted a certain distance along the track relative to the dog's speed value, and a dog comes in moving 5.5 units every frame. It's important to note that the game only evaluates if the dog is in the finish line region once per frame, meaning the only time a dog's position is checked is over these 5.5 unit increments. As a result, in almost all normal instances of the dog race, the dogs hop over the fake finish line region, which is why this glitch rarely ever happens in practice.
Vidya James posits that this could be the method by which Blue Dog could achieve that coveted dubski that we've all been waiting for the better part of 25 years. So, just to explain again, if any dog actually hits that very thin, invisible line, it is declared the winner no matter what, even if it comes in last place. It won't matter because it is declared to have finished before anybody else. So, you would theoretically run this enough times to the point where Blue Dog happens to hit that line. Now, it's very, very rare that this glitch happens. Vidya James highlights a few notable instances, but the reason it doesn't happen often is because the way that the game is calculating the distance, almost every single time the dogs skip that line. You need a very specific circumstance where the dog is directly on that line in that frame, and then it will be the winner. And mathematically speaking, if you run this enough times, there will come a point where Blue Dog will hit that line and it will win. And apparently that's more likely than Blue Dog just winning it the good old-fashioned way with elbow grease, spit, and a ketogenic diet, and training with David Goggins. It seems like, according to Vidya James, this was the way Blue Dog could finally win.
In fact, as of the recording of this video, there are only 4 known instances of this glitch ever occurring within regular gameplay. Earlier this year, I ran a charity fundraiser attempting over 1,300 races picking Blue Dog, hoping to get the long-awaited victory, but alas, not only did I fail at getting a Blue Dog victory, I wasn't able to get the glitch to occur a single time.
This is a very rare glitch. As Vidya James mentions, they only had 4 recorded instances of the glitch ever even happening in the first place. However, what's even more rare than the glitch is Blue Dog just normally winning a race. Throughout the countless number of times this game has been played and video evidence of someone playing the game existing, there's never been footage of Blue Dog winning. There's a couple of people that claim they've seen Blue Dog win, but that is just a bunch of hearsay and probably just a load of fucking horseradish. So it stood to reason that the glitch was likely going to be the best possible chance Blue Dog had of winning, yet when doing his charity stream, he was unable to get the glitch to happen a single time across 1,300 attempts. That is a lot. That's a... Whoo-wee! That's a lot of runs. Now, naturally, Vidya James began to question if this was something that was even in the cards at all. Just like the guy who discovered eating ass, he needed to ask the question, is this even possible? And it's the same question that was now being asked about Blue Dog winning a race. Is it just impossible?
This means that the total possible number of distribution you can have for these conditions is 252,252. Okay, it's pretty big, but it's a start. Now for the number of possible RNG values, well, the RNG value in Majora's Mask is stored in memory as a float 32, which is a fancy way of saying the game allocates 32 bits in order to represent the different values it can contain. This means that there are 2 to the power of 32 possible RNG values, which is roughly 4.3 billion. Oh, and it gets worse because with the dog's conditions in play, we get to multiply one big number by a significantly bigger number and arrive at our answer. There are 1,083,414,090,350,592 possible dog races that the game can produce.
And to put that number in perspective, that's not even a fraction of how much Google is being sued by Russia for. Just let that shit sink in. Whenever I see massive numbers now, I immediately default to just remembering that Russia is currently suing Google for $2 decillion. That is how comically large that number is. But the 1 quadrillion, well, that's not exactly a small number by any means.
Surely at least some of them result in Blue Dog triggering the glitch, right? The bad news? Realistically, we are never, ever going to get even close to this many attempts at the dog race. If I were to trigger a new dog race every second, it would take me 34 million years to reach that many attempts. Needless to say, you'd have to be a madman to even attempt this sort of thing.
And luckily, we live in the time of mad men. God, it's so good! Oh, the numbers, it's perfect! Like, this is exactly what you want from your fucking stories. All about a dog in a 25-year-old video game winning a race. It doesn't get better than that. Fucking 34 million years of producing a new race every second in order to reach the maximum number of races, and hopefully in one of those, the Blue Dog wins. But there's not even a guarantee, by the way, that Blue Dog wins in one of those. It's entirely possible, even if we did set this up to run every second of every day for the next 34 million years, we pass the Warhammer 40k super sci-fi universe, and whatever humanity looks like at that point, when they finally finish all 1 quadrillion races, there is a chance that Blue Dog never won in a single one of them. It's very possible. There is no guarantee Blue Dog ever fucking wins. You just don't know. You just assume that given this many possibilities, this many races, one of them must have Blue Dog win, but it also might not. For example, if you simulated me playing basketball 1 quadrillion times, there would never be one where I make it to the NBA. That's the brass tacks of it. That's the sad truth. And that could very well be the case for Blue Dog as well. It may just never win, even in 1 quadrillion races. And that's the fucking beauty of it. You just don't know, but you gotta just let that shit rip.
And that's when I heard from a user named Falkush, who had seen one of my prior videos on the Blue Dog subject, and got inspired to try and get a victory for himself. Falkush had a different, but more intricate idea in mind. He had also taken inspiration from previous efforts to brute force the Mario Party minigame A Day at the Races, which, coincidentally, is also a race minigame where you choose between different competitors who have different base speed values and different random conditions.
The Deus Ex Machina comes into the fold here. Falkish, the perfect man for the job. His resume couldn't be a better fit for this challenge. He had already done something similar for a similar concept in a Mario Party minigame. It's like this was written by George R.R. Martin. We just got brought the perfect person to solve one of the most difficult problems humanity has ever faced, with Blue Dog not winning a race.
He had wrote up a script to brute force the dog race with an emulator. Using the information discussed earlier about how the RNG values affect the dog race, this script would make a save state just before pressing A to initiate the race, then run the race at a much faster speed because you could do that with an emulator, and then after the race had concluded, the script would reload the save state, advance the game by 1 frame in order to change the RNG value, make a new save state, and run the race with that brand new RNG value and a brand new outcome. Falkush used an auto splitter, which is normally used for speedrunning console games to look for certain key frames and send commands to your splitting program. But here, he had cleverly leveraged it to look at the first section of the text displayed after the race.
That's such a smart strategy. That is genius level. This dude could probably crack Cold Fusion if you slap Nintendo 64 graphics on it. It's so good. Like, to use an auto splitter for that purpose, that, like, I'm too stupid to do the save states and all of, like, the endless calculations and all of that, but I know auto splitters because I speedrun. I have been speedrunning for a decade, so I'm very familiar with how auto splitters work. I typically don't use them when I stream, but I do know them. And this is just such a creative use of an auto splitter. So he, as VG James mentioned, he would have it look at the keyframes in her dialogue because it was unique dialogue depending on where the dog had finished. So he's able to log that to know where Blue Dog had finished in each one of these races.
It would also record the number of frames the script waited before starting the race, so that he could manually load up the initial save and reproduce the race at a normal speed later on. After running the script for 3 days almost non-stop, generating 8,410 races, this happened. The world's first ever Blue Dog victory, all thanks to the tiniest oversight in the code allowing for an early win.
Against all the odds, it had been done. We may not be inhabiting Mars right now and might not be in the near future, but god damn it, what we do have is something equally as powerful. Our first recorded instance of Blue Dog winning in Majora's Mask. Now, I cut out this section in VidyaJames' video where he explains what happens when one of the dogs hits that invisible line. But, as I mentioned, when a dog does hit that invisible line, it is declared the winner on the spot. It's declared to have won before anything else. And the way you know it triggers is because of the music. You heard how the music stopped there. Well, it's because one of the dogs hit it, and it was Blue Dog. So Blue Dog was the winner. It got crowned first place. It got the gold medal, even though it didn't cross the finish line first. So it does still count as a win, but it does feel a little hollow not seeing him lead the pack and actually getting to, cross the finish line like all the triumphant athletes before him. So they had to ask, can it be done legitimately? We've proven that Blue Dog can win, but can it only win through this glitch? Or if we do this enough, will it eventually just win on its own 4 legs?
As a bonus, he included a clip he saw of Blue Dog getting a legitimate 4th place, which, to both of our knowledge, was the best we've ever seen our boy do outside of the glitch. And in his video description, he proclaimed a question. Can the Blue Dog get better than 4th place without the glitch? Blue Dog had to have the good condition, and the fastest overall dogs needed to have bad or neutral conditions. He again used a script to automate loading the racetrack area, look at each of the dog's conditions in memory, and reload it until it was arranged in a way that it was determined to be optimal for Blue Dog.
This is the equivalent of putting the bumpers up in the bowling lane to help you get a strike, where it's one of those things like, you really want to strike, but you're just not good enough. So that's what Falkish is doing here. He's trying to stack the deck here in favor of Blue Dog having the best chance at winning. So, as mentioned earlier, there are statuses that are applied to the dogs, good, neutral, and bad. Ideally, he'd want Blue Dog with good and everyone else with bad, but the best you can really hope for is Blue Dog getting good and the rest getting a combination of good and neutral and bad for Gold Dog and the faster dogs. So that's what he was doing. He kept reloading until he had the optimal conditions set up.
Well, on the evening of August 25th, 2024, this happened.
$30,000 attempts and Falkish running the script on 2 separate computers every day, non-stop, finally produced a world where Blue Dog won a race legitimately without the glitch. What an amazing story, beautifully told by VidyaJames. Like I said, I highly recommend checking out his whole video on this. I've only covered like the basics of it. I just love this kind of content so much, and I'm so happy to see that it popped off for him. It seems to be doing really well for him, and I'm really excited to see what else he uploads going forward. This was such a treat from the YouTube algorithm today. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about this a little bit. That's it. So yeah.